Jai Hind. This is Brigadier Hemant Mahajan. We have spoken about the 1971 war in last three episodes. Today, we are going to talk on a very important issue, that is the heroes of 1971 war. Thereafter, we will talk about as to what was the outcome at the Shimla agreement which took place between India and Pakistan at Shimla in 1972. And thereafter, we'll also focus on Bangladesh today or the security scenario on the Indo-Bangladesh front thereafter. Let us start with the most important fact that 1971 was the most outstanding military victory ever scored by India against its enemies after 1947 independence. It was a war. It was a war which was brilliantly fought. Very good preparations made by General Sam Manekshaw and the armed forces. Thereafter, the plan was implemented in a very professional manner by the Indian Army, and the war ended in barely 2 weeks after it started on 3rd of December. So, therefore, it was a brilliant campaign by all means. Now, what did we gain after the war, and what is the situation as on today? First, let's talk about the heroes which were there in the war. The Field Marshal and his generals. Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw was one of the most outstanding leaders. His contribution to this victory has been highlighted before. He deserves all our compliments. He was supported ably by many. First one was Major General Inder Gill, who was the Director Military Operations at that point of time in New Delhi. He was a very effective DMO, now called as the DGMO, who controlled the operations very, very well sitting at Delhi. He also was an outstanding professional. Then we have the Eastern Command led by Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora. Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora was an army commander who commanded Eastern Command very well. He is also considered as a very competent officer. Then you have the Chief of Staff of Eastern Command, that is then Major General Jacob. He is also credited with doing a fair amount of planning. The Field Marshal used to speak to him regularly during the operations, and also when General Niazi was not willing to surrender, he was made to go to Dhaka to convince General Niazi that he must surrender. In fact, when General Jacob went to Dhaka, at that point of time, there were a lot of troops which were still left untouched in the war, and Pakistan could have fought much longer in the war if they had decided to. But General Jacob's skill plus psychological operations carried out by the army, dropping of leaflets by the Air Force, ensured that they surrendered even when their combat potential was intact. The next set of generals that we have are the three corps commanders. 33 Corps Commander General Thapar, 4 Corps Commander, uh, um, four Corps commanded by one of the most important heroes that is Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, and we have the 2 Corps which was commanded by General Raina. Both General Raina and ML Thapar commanded the corps competently and led well, but the actual hero of the fighting troops was Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, an outstanding field commander who led from the front. He carried out a lot of innovative planning. He crossed rivers and nalas with local resources. He outflanked the various fortresses that was there and headed straight for Dhaka. The para drop at Tangil, also helibound crossing of river, were some outstanding operations carried out under his command. General Sagat Singh always led from the front, and he ensured that we reached Dhaka much faster than was estimated. Another hero was the the GOC of 101 Communication Area located in Shillong. Actually, 101 area in Shillong had barely two brigades, but its GOC, General Nagra, and initially General Gill and later General Nagra also did a very good job. And in fact, they were one of the first troops to enter into Dhaka. All in all, the generalship of the war was of a very high order. While we are not focused too much on the Western Front, even on the Western Front, effective battles were fought by the army commander there and the corps commanders, both in the area of Kashmir and in Punjab. Purely because of lack of time, we are not focusing on them, but they also fought the war very well. Now we come down to the ground in which a lot of heroes were there. The four PVCs whose names are brought out are Major Hoshiar Singh of the Grenadiers, three Grenadiers to be precise, who fought in the Battle of Basantar, in which he stopped the Pakistani advance. He was a company commander there, and rightly he was awarded with a Paramveer Chakra. Much later in life, in 1973 to 75, when I was a cadet at Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, I had the good fortune of studying tactics under Major Hoshiar Singh in the single company of Indian Military Academy. He was an outstanding company commander and battalion commander. The second hero was Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, who led the tanks against the Pakistanis. He also, for his sheer bravery, was awarded Paramveer Chakra. I can also say that he was also from Sinhagad Company of Indian Military Academy, and I'm very proud of him. The next Paramveer Chakra was Lance Naik Albert Ikka. His bravery has been recorded very well in the history. Then we have the one from the Air Force, squadron leader Nirmaljit Singh Sekho, who fought against the Pakistani sabers. He also deserves our compliments. There were many Mahavir Chakra winners purely because of lack of time. We are not talking about them, but there were some very outstanding battalion commanders, company commanders, brigade commanders. In fact, my own battalion, 7 Maratha Light Infantry itself, lost very heavily in this war in the Battle of Pachaghat and Kamdanagar, and they also produced a lot of gallantry award winners. But I think what is more important is the Indian soldiers as a whole fought very bravely, and they were led equally efficiently by their platoon commanders, company commanders, battalion commanders, brigade commanders, and the GOCs of the division and the corps commanders. We lost nearly 4,000 of our troops in this war. We also nearly more than 10,000 troops of ours were severely injured. All these martyrs of this war deserve nation's gratitude, and we pray for their peace forever. These were the outstanding soldiers, JCOs, officers of Indian Armed Forces which led the war. Not to forget about some outstanding commanders from the Air Force and also from the Navy. Now I will talk about as to what happened in the Simla Agreement. We had nearly 94,000 soldiers as prisoners with us. However, we did not achieve much as far as the negotiations in Simla were concerned. There were few which are which are very very conspicuous by their failure. Number one, it is said again and again that nearly 95 soldiers of ours which were held by Pakistan as prisoners of war were never released. Pakistan claimed that they were not with them. We could have easily held on to some Pakistani soldiers to tell them that if you do not release our soldiers, we will not relieve your soldiers. Possibly Pakistan, even at that point of time, would have understood the language of tit for tat, but we definitely failed those soldiers who were prisoner of war in Pakistan. That was one of the biggest failures. Second failure is, of course, is not converting the line of control into an international border. This was a golden opportunity to ensure that the Kashmir dispute was resolved forever. This was not done, and after that, Pakistan launched against us what is called as Operation Karakoram, that is by covert and overt means destabilizing India. The three prongs of Pakistan's Operation Karakoram are well known. K1 was Khalistani terrorism, K2 was Kashmiri terrorism, and K3 was terrorism in other parts of our country. This continued, and Pakistan continued to trouble India with various terrorist activities. Now, what are they doing now is a separate subject by itself. However, let us come down to another important failure at the Shimla summit, that was not giving adequate depth to the Siliguri corridor. We know that Siliguri corridor is a narrow strip of land which connects northeast India with rest of India. This strip is always vulnerable for any attacks by either China or some of the anti-nationals trying to stop the Siliguri corridor, thereby separating India from the northeast. We had a golden opportunity to give a depth to the Siliguri corridor. We could have easily asked for more land to give a more broader, more depth or more length to this corridor by telling Bangladesh to concede land in this important area. In return, we could have considered land in some other area. But that was not done by our leadership, and this was definitely an important failure because Siliguri corridor remains our chicken's neck even so many years after independence. Recently, there were reports that China is putting pressure on Bhutan to give away land next to Doklam to China. If this happens, it will pose more threat to the Siliguri corridor. So these were three, four most important failures in diplomacy after the 1971 war summit at Shimla. Now let us talk about the birth of Bangladesh. Very briefly, initially, for few years under Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh was very friendly with India, and everything seemed to be good, going good as far as the relations were concerned. Then there was a military coup in which the military came over General Ziaul Haq. Thereafter, you had the Begum of his, that is Khalida Zia, coming to lead Bangladesh. Those 10 years were very bad, and let us not talk too much about it, but it was a very, very severe threat to our national security. Luckily for India, Mujibur Rahman's daughter came back to power, Srimati Hasina Wajid, and today we have very good relations with Bangladesh. However, the illegal migration from Bangladesh continues. Initially, it was torrents, now it is reduced quite a lot, but it still continues on the Indo-Bangladesh West Bengal border. Officially, Bangladesh is still not willing to take back those 3 4 crore Bangladeshis who have illegally infiltrated into India. The good part, however, is that it is said that whichever Bangladeshis are caught and who undergo trial in India are by and large taken back by Bangladesh. But catching Bangladeshis in India is like seeing the tip of an iceberg. We need to do hell of a lot to catch all illegal migrants who are spread out in various parts of the country, especially in West Bengal, Uttarakhand, UP, Kerala, and many important big cities. That problem still continues. But as far as the economic cooperation with Bangladesh is concerned, it has improved quite a lot. The connectivity to Northeast has improved quite a lot. Bangladesh has agreed to give us road, rail, and uh, other communications to Northeast India via Bangladesh, including the rivers, etc. So this will ensure that Northeast progresses much rapidly than what it was doing earlier. Bangladesh has also stopped insurgents from the northeast taking shelter in Bangladesh. In fact, some of the leaders of Ulfa, etc., were handed over to India by Bangladesh. That's a good news that they are not allowing their soil to be used as camps. They have also ensured that all other illegal activities which were taking place against India in the form of smuggling, etc., they are not officially doing it now. However, illegal migration is still a cause of concern. The another important part of the Bangladesh agreement, another important part of a let's say relations with Bangladesh is the Farakka water arrangement or Bangladesh wanting Tista waters from India to come into Bangladesh, etc. The water problem is still there. But one important issue that was resolved few years back was the various enclaves, which Indian enclaves which were there in Bangladesh and Bangladesh enclaves which were in India, they have been straightened out now, thereby making the guarding of Bangladesh border much easier. So for that, we need to compliment Bangladesh for acting in a mature manner. All said and done, the relations with Bangladesh have improved tremendously. However, illegal migration still continues to be a problem. Now, let us go to the West Pakistan or the present Pakistan. The present Pakistan started terrorism in Khalistan. It was crushed later by Indian Army and the Punjab police. The Kashmir terrorism started somewhere in the 80s. It is still continuing, though now it is confined only to the Kashmir Valley. There is no terror activities in Ladakh or hardly any terror activities down south of Pir Panjal, that is in the area of Punch, Rajouri, etc. Also, uh, the capacity of Pakistan to create problems in India has reduced drastically because its size has decreased, its economic resources have gone down, and its capacity to create problems for us on both the fronts, that is West Pakistan and East Pakistan, has now gone in for favor. Conventionally, the threat from in the on the eastern border has been overcome permanently. So that was a very important aspect. Also, Pakistan has realized that it can never win a conventional war against India. So therefore, it is only resorting to terrorism, drug terrorism, that is narco terrorism, sending fake Indian currency notes, sending supporters of terrorists and terrorists itself, and trying to destabilize India by unconventional means. This is continuing. However, the strikes in India, mainland India, have now stopped because now they're scared that with a government in power, which is very proactive as far as Pakistan is concerned, and they remembered the surgical strike carried out in Pakistan post Uri very well. They have also learned their lessons from the Balakot strike very well. So therefore, no terror attacks are taking place in rest of India. However, they are still trying to destabilize India by narco-terrorism, by fake Indian currency notes, by illegal trade, by smuggling, and by terror activities which are presently confined to the Kashmir Valley. Pakistan, along with China, will pose a long-term threat to our country and will continue to do so for a foreseeable future. China is carrying out a hybrid war against India, also called as an unrestricted war, hybrid war, or a gray zone warfare, or also called as multi-domain warfare. That means they are fighting with India on the economic front, they are resorting to disinformation, propaganda warfare, etc. They are stopping us at diplomatically at world level. They are trying to infiltrate into a neighborhood, etc. So hybrid war of China along with Pakistan continues to be a short-term and a long-term threat to India's security. But there is no denying that the victory in Bangladesh eliminated the conventional war on the Eastern Front once and for all, also eliminated the capability of Pakistan to do any worthwhile military damage to India once and for all. However, terrorism in low form and hybrid war will continue in the days to come. So, on this day of 50th anniversary of Indo-Pakistan War, or called as the War of Bangladesh Liberation, we must salute our soldiers, JCOs, and officers who created a new nation called Bangladesh, thereby improving the security environment in the Indian subcontinent once and for all. So let us salute all these brave soldiers of India who have made India much safer than what we were prior to 1971. Jai Hind.